WVAI 101 Jams, your home for classics in today's hip hop and R&B. And we are still here for the bottom of the show, the last hour. Thank you for staying tuned. Man, it's Charles, it's Max, it's Razor, it's Ron, and Max, kick it over to you.
It's us. Yeah. So as promised, Tessa Thompson is joining us. She is the author of Teen Hacks. We have both a book / workbook, and then we have a journal as well that she has published here recently. Tessa, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm excited to be here to talk about my book, and so thank you guys for having me on.
Very welcome.
Of course. I saw you make the virtual announcement on Facebook, and just wanted to be of any assistance I could to get the word out. So glad to have you. So how about we start with maybe just a little introduction about yourself, just so that our audience knows who's talking right now.
Okay, I am Tessa Thompson, affectionately known as Miss Tessa to the community. I am an educator. I work as an instructional assistant at Clark Elementary School. I am also a mentor to several teens in our community, which is part of what inspired the publication of this book. I do a lot of different volunteer work in the community as well. I met yourself and also Razor.
You don't know me, girl. Don't be telling people you know her.
Because we all went through the CIC program together. So I'm glad to be sort of reunited with you guys to, say hi and let you guys know some of the other work that I have going on in the community as well. So that's a little bit. This is actually my second book that I published. The first book was a children's book, and it was called Leaf. It's called Leaf, No Ordinary Lizard, and it's just about a story about a little lizard that goes on a journey to find out what makes him extraordinary. A lot of the work that I do is in social and emotional care with young people, and so that book, as well as this one, kind of still goes into making sure that our young people are getting a early education on how to care for their social and emotional needs. So that's kind of what inspired some of the work as well.
Okay, so this first one here, Teen Hacks, Things I Learned While Thinking I Knew It All. I knew it all. My children think they knew it all. Tell us about it, girl. Give us some tips.
So I talk about it a little bit in the introduction of the book and the preference of the book, just because I feel like a lot of times as a teen, you really do think that you know it all. Like you're going through so much, and there's so many things going on in your life. You have these moments of epiphany, and you're like, yes, now I know everything. Like the world is, my open book. So I was reflecting on that years ago, and so I started this project in about 2016, and the book was nothing like it is now, but I did have the opportunity to tell some of those stories back then as I was working with teens in Atlanta, Georgia, before moving back to Virginia. And so that was part of the inspiration for the book as well. And so the book goes through different stories from my early adulthood and my teen years, and just gives teens and young adults some wisdom and advice on
we're picking up a little rustling in the background with your microphone, maybe.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, okay. That's better.
Sorry about that. So
that's all right.
Yeah, so about 2016 is when I started working on this project as well as others. And so the book now has kind of formulated itself into this book about the stories of different parts of my teen years and my life thus far. So.
Okay. So what gets us to this point? Is this like a biological, like, you old people say you smelling yourself, like you reach an age where I know it all, or you just reach an age where I'm not willing to listen to anything anybody else has to say?
I feel like most of it, and I do talk about this a little bit, is that teens sometimes feel not heard themselves. And so they rely on what they have experienced as well as what they are experiencing to kind of inform them. And so that can kind of lead them to their own conclusions, which are not always, right. But at the same time, if you're not feeling heard or understood, then you have to find some place to kind of get that information. And relying on yourself and other teens is usually where we go to. And not feeling safe or not having someone to trust to talk some of those stuff out to, which is something else I encourage in the book. You do rely on that own understanding. And so that's one of the things I talk about, the feeling of invincibility. You have these wins that make you feel almost invincible. And so that, again, it reinforces that I know it all and you can't tell me nothing. So it just the fact that they don't feel heard and that they get these boost in confidence because of the wins that they do get kind of leads you to the I know it all kind of attitude.
Yeah. Hey Tessa, this is Charles. Good to talk to you.
Hey.
And that reminds me of, like, we had talked about, like, Kanye West, for instance, and how, like, when you knew and I've heard, like, the rapper Lecrae say this regarding him too. Like, they're friends, but it's like when you're new to, like, a faith, it's like sometimes you, like, are so excited, and that's what that reminds me of what you're saying. It's like you want to just like be a pastor as soon as you born again. You know what I mean? And so like I think that's the same sort of mindset that they have. Or like when you have a new job and you come in wanting to be the boss, like that excitement does it. Like, so I think you're spot on with that. But a question that I have though is like that bridge of parenting and being a friend.
Talk about it.
Like, I don't know if anybody really has figured that out. Like, maybe, like one of the other parents here can give me some advice, but it's such a thin line, right? Of your teenager particularly trusting you. So I'm curious your experience with that and your advice for that as far as being able to have that open communication with your child. But from my experience, either you cross the line and you're too tough, they can't open up all the way because you're the parent and they'll be disciplined, or you're too loose and your child doesn't respect you as a parent.
It's funny. Well, not even funny, because I could go like in two different directions, because I love to hit on that like new religion and Kanye thing, because I have so much on that. But I want to stick to what we're talking about now. So I actually, when I outlined the book that I just published, I was actually outlining at the same time a book for parents that are parenting teens, because I knew the dynamics of that situation, because that's why they were bringing me in. These churches and different community groups were bringing me in to talk to teens. They're bringing me in to talk to teens about sex. They were bringing me in to talk to teens about respect. They're bringing me in to talk to teens about, self-image, things like that. And so I knew I had a skill for it because they listened to me. And they would come back and talk to me even after I was done with whatever program I was running with them. So one of the reasons that I think that was successful for me was because I was open about my own struggles. I was very transparent about some of the things that I went through. And it's sometimes hard as a parent to be that transparent with a kid. Or you take it too far, like you said, and I used to smoke weed, I used to drink, I used to like parents will do that. And then that's in their head sends kids the wrong message as well. So like there has to be a balance for it all. But like leaving that door open to talk to you, but still having structure and discipline in that process does something for kids. Discipline gives them security a lot of times. And sometimes if they don't get that early on, which is again why I do the social emotional work I do with younger kids, then they won't ever feel that with you as they get to that stage where they are feeling themselves or they're going through a lot and they don't know who to trust. So like that, there are so many different foundational pieces that help to get there. But one of the things that transparency. And I talk about that in the book too. Like I say, teens, grands, neighbors, teachers, they were all teens once. Right. And they may need a reminder of that. So when you get to that point where you're bumping heads with your parents, like let's talk about what happened when you were this age.
Right.
What were you going through? What were you feeling? don't make it all about what I'm going through, because you went through something too.
That's right.
It might be a little different, but come on now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that helps like open up the conversation a little bit more when you're a little bit more transparent. Yeah. And I am going to publish that book too for the parents.
Yeah, this is Ron. Great content. And I actually, this is real life. I have a brilliant 16-year-old that that he and I bump heads. And as a parent, what I actually had to do was I was getting a lot of outside noise from other people. You got to be harder. You got to be softer. And I'm like, but if you're not here every day, you don't even understand how to interact with the personality. You know what I'm saying?
That's easy for you to say.
And that's a hard balance. But what I even learned with my son, and I want you to talk about this, is us as parents literally having to say to ourselves, they can figure it out, but you have to have structure. So give you an example. Yes. It's kind of like my son, he's developing a real estate company. He's 16. And he comes to me for advice. But if I don't say what he kind of wants to say, oh man, you don't even know what you're talking. I don't even know. And so we got into a big argument the other day. Listen, literally, raising over.
What you asking for? Yeah.
We got into a big argument the other day. He and I going back and forth, and I'm like, well, you got it. You figure it out. So then I go into the basement, and he calms down a little bit, and he says to me, Dad, I just had a moment. You know, I'm young and I'm 16. I'm like, yeah, but this is what I want you to understand about just your emotions. You got to learn how to take it up. You got to learn how to take it down. I let you figure it out, but as the parent, I'm not telling you something that's going to destroy you. Why is that so hard for us as parents and for us as kids to find that middle ground? And it's funny, as I'm saying it, it's hard for us to even do it as adults with each other.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying? Very so I wanted to get some of your opinion on that.
I was saying that the book has the nonfiction novel part, which is the first part of the book, and then it has some activities in the back. And I talk about the processes that me and my friends went through, learning how to control some of those emotional things, decision making, and knowing how to, work through problem solving in relationships, in friendships, and things like that. So there are activities in the back of this book that kind of go through that. So one of the activities is a pros and cons list. Me and my friends, and this is when I was more of a younger adult, we came up with this thing where we would make a pros and cons list, or to have an open discussion about, is it worth it to go and do these things that we were thinking we wanted to do? Is it worth it? And so that helped us develop these processes to decision making. So a lot of times we have to practice some of these things. And that's why I was saying earlier, the earlier that they get it, the stronger they'll be at it as they go. But controlling our emotions, as we know, is hard for, like you said, even adults. So like I do mindfulness practices with my classes at school, and I find just as much relief with them as the kids do. So we have to kind of find different things to get us: meditation, prayer, reading, listening to music, things like that. If we are at a place where we can't find an outlet for those emotions, then a lot of times we're always going to be on edge. And that leaves us vulnerable to outlet, to lashing out at folks, even our parents, even the people that care about us most, and that have our best interests. And they can be offended by that. You might be offended by every time you try to tell him something. He like, you don't know nothing. Like, eventually you're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm not gonna tell you nothing then. Like,
right. As a human, I'm like, bro, come on, man. Like, come on. And then he's like, well, you were. And then they never say that I was right either. That's the other part.
Right.
But, I got to work through that.
Yes. Again, that feeling of invincibility. Like, yep, they were right. You know what? As a matter of fact, they were. And that's another thing. And so, to your point too. So this book has a lot of stories about myself, and of course me being a Black female growing up. I'm actually a member of a sorority. I don't talk about that in this book, but I had a shout out because I'm an AKA, and our vice president. Okay.
AKA is always showing off.
Have your moment.
Bringing it back. I had to have it. Okay, y'all can't see the pen, but I got it on. So So this book is geared more toward, some of those experiences. So young men might not be able to relate to it. I do think that they could definitely learn from some of the exercises about like decision making and things like that, and reflecting on your images and things like that. I definitely do. And I talk about that in the book. But I'm also working on a book for young men. I am raising a young man, and my heart, is in this next book because I'm raising this young man and I work with young men. And so back in, I think it was 2013, I was staying with a friend. And as I walked around her apartment complex, I would run into these young men who would hit on me. And I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go again. I was like, they don't even know that I'm probably old enough to be their mama. And so I would just sit down and talk to them. And these young men would spill their hearts out to me about whatever it was they were going through, joblessness, struggles with their family, things like that. And so they started calling me mom. And so like I was at first offended because I'm like, I'm not that old. At the same time, I was honored that they would do that for me because of the fact that they trusted me enough to confide in me and to take my advice. Even if it was just a little bit like, get your life together. You know better. You can't be out here doing this reckless stuff. They would listen to me enough. And so I decided that this was before my child, sometime before my child. And so I knew that I could offer the same kind of advice to young men. So I'm working on this next book for them. And so I'm excited about that project too, because I feel like it's necessary. In that book, I'm going to tell stories about men who had, who played vital roles in my life, who were there for me, who made me feel protected, who made me feel safe, who made me feel provided for, who made me feel, the things that I feel our young men want to be, aspire to be without having to be these things that the media has told them they should.
Hey, Tessa.
Yes.
That's a great segue. Now, buckle up for this one. I'm about to give it to you.
I'm trying extra time. Is this a spirit flight or Delta?
This deep. Okay. Me and my wife we're mostly boys in our family, right? And I know that my sons have trouble confiding in me because when they mess up, and I'm gonna just be honest, I don't care nothing about their feelings. I will tell them that they messed up. Yeah, I'm James Evans, right? And me and my wife go at it because I know the world cares nothing about a black male. And it's even worse for them being the sons of Troy Robinson, because the people that can't get to me will get to them to get to me. They have a certain expectation on them, right? So in my personal opinion, most of the young boys that come up now is not somebody that you would want taking care of your grandkids. The boys now are too soft. They just literally are that call me old school, whatever. Most everybody's son out here is too soft for me. You know what I'm saying?
We come from the Bernie Mac school, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. And my wife can tell you, I don't care nothing about their feelings. If you messed up, you messed up. And I'm going to tell you just like that. And I'm going to look you in your eyes when I tell you. Why? Because when you got somebody looking down on you, trying to degrade you, if you ain't got it built in you, it can't come out. And if you don't do it, it won't be because I did not try to put it there. You know what I'm saying? Like we have kids and I'm sure most of y'all that's listening right now got a certain point where you don't want your sons going outside after a certain time because it's like living in the country is not safe. You got snakes, you got animals, you got crazy people, you got all kind of stuff. But we'll put them in charge of a 2,000-pound vehicle to go out here and run around. Now, if you ain't got it in you to go outside, what you look like driving a car and being responsible?
Good perspective.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to tell you, I do not care that my sons do not want me to tell them that they effed up. Because if you did, you did. You learn, especially if it's a decision that you made, that I know that I put more in you than the decision that you making. Now, it's up to your mama to boob feed you. But it's not going to come from me. It's never going to come from me.
I feel you.
And I feel like, so you said a lot in that. And I do think that their emotional wellness is definitely should be accounted for. But I agree that
ain't looking at it.
Some young men have been coddled and cared for in a way that makes them feel more entitled than they are. And that can leave them vulnerable in a world that we all know, and that they find out the hard way that they're not entitled to.
Especially being Black.
You know, I have sometimes like they date up, as people say, or they'll date white, or they'll date, you know, like people who have, you know, like have kind of, okay, let me take it back for a second. Even outside of the dating part of it, we do have to push them out of the nest at some point. They need to learn how to fly at some point. But again, with this emotional part of it, they need to be able to control those emotions, because when they do find a space where they are out of their emotional comfort zone, that will be displayed as a reason for someone to do them harm if they don't know how to control their emotions. And we cannot leave it up to all of our mothers to do that, because our mothers don't see things the same way that men do when it comes to the emotional part of it. So having a balance of that is good. But as we know, a lot of our sons are not being raised in 2-parent homes. They're being raised only by women. But I am going to tell you that I do believe that a woman can raise a man, because I cannot not believe that, because I'm doing it, you know? And so having that emotional connection with my son and teaching him how to control those emotions is part of my job, because I am the one that has to do it.
Yeah,
I am the one, like
you can raise him to be a man for a woman. You can't raise him to be a man for a man. I'm sorry. And you know, you my girl, but I'm just, it is what it is. Like, you can't. How you going to teach him to stand up and pee?
But I did. Like, my child know how to stand up and pee, and ain't nobody teach him but me.
I mean, that's just I'm giving a phrase. Like, it's just certain things.
Ray's
like,
attacking the guest, Lord.
No, I'm not attacking the guest, but the problem is,
yes, you are.
Okay, look at it like this. How many of these sorry, no good dudes out here, when they date a girl, got to move in the house with the woman? What kind of crazy mess is that?
But that's also
one of my
a reflection
friends,
of the
my cousin,
men.
actually, she posted.
That's
today.
what I'm
She's
saying.
Like, how many of y'all actually moved in with a man? But the funny part was, as I was telling you, I'm writing this book. Like the Dexter Henry Isaiah Humphrey's village is strong, because his godfather is the man that I moved in with. We were not in a relationship, but he tucked me in when I had nowhere else to go. And so he is the godfather to my child, because I needed him to have those examples in his village of people. You know, somebody that knows how to take care of somebody without any obligations. We didn't have no obligations. He didn't need anything from me. He took me in off the street because that was what his heart told him to do. So when you talk about that, I may not be able to do it, but part of my job is to also make sure that he has people in his life.
That's right. And allow it to happen. Absolutely.
Exactly. But again, but giving them as I'm sorry, A-Rod, is it?
Aaron.
I'm sorry. I'm not as familiar. I know everybody else.
She said a-hole.
Here you go.
Look,
his mama named Aaron. I'm gonna call him.
But to surround him with people he can go to, and to give him, you know, it's like the opportunity to fail. And that's another thing that sometimes it's hard for us parents to do, is to give them the opportunity to fail. I have to tell my son, he's only 4, he just turned 4 years old. But I'm like, nope, you're going to keep trying till you get it. You're going to keep trying till you get it, because you need that experience to be able to tell you it's okay to fail, because I failed so many times and I had to get myself up. And so I think that that's important as well.
Right. So I don't know if we need to take a break now, Charles. I did have one question and wanted you to share any parting comments about the book, Tessa, and certainly how to find it.
Yeah, go ahead.
But my question pertains. Okay. So my question pertains to judgment, and what have you learned that we as parents, I guess, how to give our kids just enough judgment so that it's constructive to them, so that it provides kind of a guiding light to them, but doesn't, force them to go the opposite direction just because we said go right, or it doesn't cause them to shut down, or, just go into like a hole, if you will.
So, like I was saying, there's the activities in the back of the book that talk about it, and one of the first activities is called Mirror Mirror, and sometimes it helps for them to see how they look to themselves. Like, sit down and talk to them. What do you want for yourself? How do you want, like, to be, for people to know you, like, and so having that conversation will give you insight on what direction they're going to go in before they even go in that direction, and then give them critical advice on it, like critique them in a way they're saying, listen, okay, I understand this, but in this house that you are being raised in, that is not acceptable. That is not what we would deem respectable, but still respecting them and saying, like, you can make your own choices, you can be your own person, but at this time you still live here. So going out the house looking crazy is not an option for you. Acting crazy is not an option for you. You know what I'm saying? So that, but still having that conversation, because you don't know what they're thinking all the time. So having a conversation to hear what they're thinking, and having them knowing that avenue is open, I think is a great technique to getting in their head. To help.
Because I think they want our judgment, and to a certain degree, our judgment shows them that we love them.
Exactly.
But we as parents can be quick to take something that they say and automatically, in all of our years of experience, formulate a response. And then before you know it, we've turned the conversation into something that they didn't intend for it to be. So
let me just say that that was one of the main things that I learned, just real quick, because I think somebody needs to hear this, is that because y'all know how busy I am, right? And I would think to myself, well, when I'm at home, like, they on the game, they on their phone, or like they, whatever they doing their own thing. But it took some trials and tribulations for me to see that just to have that parent around means so much.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Being around.
Just being around. Even if they don't say a word to you, because when you're not around, they're gonna let you know you weren't around.
Right? Yeah.
They will remind you quickly.
My 4-5-year-old say that. Dad, you got to go to work again.
Right. Yep, you're right.
They will come for your life. And that's the same thing with the community stuff too. And so I have this conversation with my community partners that I work with. And teens read you from the get-go. You walk through the door, they know if you're authentic, they know if you are real, and that is what they respond to. They need people that are real and authentic in their life, because there's so many things that are not real and are harmful to them, that they can't take that no more.
Big facts.
Like, I know we're not going to talk about it, but that's what it is. And so, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. All right. So tell her to find the book.
So it is available on Amazon. I also have a link where I am doing a donation drive to get enough gift sets to serve some of the kids that I do work with in the community. I'm trying to raise $550 to be able to do that as like a gift for them. And so you can contact me directly. I'm on Facebook at Tessa Thompson. Not to be mistaken with the actress Tessa Thompson, but you'll find me there. I'm also on Instagram at community and community 17, so you can find me there. And I have a website as well, www.misstessa.com. So any of those places you can find me and reach out to me.
All right. That's it. Good stuff. We appreciate you. Great work on these books, and come back anytime. Any future projects that you want to get the word out on, we're here to help.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, more IMHO.